Dondrea Brown. Count the cost. Let's go.
Hey y'all, this is Dondrea Brown back for another season of Count the Cost podcast. I told y'all we're coming with some heavy hitters. Again, the purpose of this podcast is to bring people on so that we can have real conversations in real time about real things. So I wanted to bring my guy Marco to the podcast. Marco, you want to introduce yourself real quickly?
Hey guys, how you doing? My name's Marco Pulaski. I've been born and raised here in Grand Rapids all my life and grew up on the southwest side of Grand Rapids, Wyoming. I just turned 30 years old back in July and feeling great, good about life. You know, things are just starting, and it's, you know, meeting a lot of people and putting myself in a lot of different situations that get outside the comfort zone. And
Yeah, so speaking of getting out the comfort zone, he played me in basketball. Got him out of his comfort zone. Dropped a couple threes. How many threes was it? The Count the Cost podcast is sponsored by Young Money Finance. That's a local nonprofit in Grand Rapids, Michigan, providing youth financial literacy. If you're interested in learning more about them, go to www.ymfgr.org. Again, www.ymfgr.org.
Steph Curry numbers, that's for sure. I think if Steph Curry would have been playing with us, he would have had his money up for grabs. That's for sure. But hey, I got one victory out of the fight 21, so I wasn't gonna give up until we got that. So
yeah, he definitely got me in. One thing I did like about Marco is he didn't want to quit or give up. Like, look, you want to play another game? Like, sure, I'm not gonna. So he kind of made me quit. But let's jump into what we have today, because one of the things I appreciate about Marco, he was not just interested in podcasting, but he brought some podcast questions, because I'm usually the person that asks a lot of the questions, but Marco was like, look, Dondrea, let's have a back and forth discussion to ask some of these critical questions. So we're going to jump into it with some questions, and we'll just go back and forth and have a discussion. Again, please make sure you subscribe to our channel or you follow us on social media platforms, because we'll continue to post this content and information. And then after, toward the end of this video, I have a little treat for y'all, so make sure y'all watch the whole video. Go ahead, Marco. What's up?
yeah, so I mean, I'll be kind of just looking down on my phone here, unlocking it, just to get back to some of the questions. But I've always been a type of person that enjoys like having intellectual, strong conversations, just to not be superficial with people, but to get to know people on a deeper level, because relationships are everything in this world, man, and it's really hard to come by when you find real people that not only want to have a conversation with you, but can back it up with true friendship. And with people out there, the media, politics, whatever you want to really say, is that people want to bring you down, especially when you're up. It's harder to pull someone up than it is to pull someone down. You take a look. You take a look as like, maybe you're like standing on a chair and someone's like a few feet underneath you. Like, you're gonna pull them, and it's gonna be harder, no matter who the person is. But that if that other person tried to pull you down, it's gravity is just gonna do its thing. But with being someone that is like confident, I would say like myself at times, and I see that in you as well. But like, has there ever been a time when your confidence has been crushed?
Woo. Okay, so you coming out the gate, Marco. I wouldn't say crushed. I would say yes. I have lacked confidence in many spaces, and I'll go all the way back to when I first started working in the professional world. I was very young when I became a director, so I went through like imposter syndrome, like feeling like I didn't belong, feeling like I wasn't worthy in those spaces. I had people tell me, you're really young to be a director. The way in which I was thinking and trying to approach my work, and this was at Kent State University. I was the first coordinator at Student Support Services, but then I became associate director for the McNair Scholars Program. McNair Scholars Program was named after the astronaut Ronald E. McNair, who died on the Challenger explosion in the 90s. And the program essentially stated that the goal was for you to earn your PhD within 10 years of earning your bachelor's degree. Really amazing program. I was a student in the program and then ended up becoming a director in the program. And just sitting at certain tables and seats and, people challenging and talking about how I'm working or how fast I'm progressing. Like it played with my confidence a little bit. It really challenged me. But then also moving to Grand Rapids and trying to pursue entrepreneurship. That was a challenge because you look at social media and look at all these other people and it looks like they're, doing so much better, so much faster. And you're like, dang, can I really stick this through? Or when I was struggling financially to make ends meet while trying to pursue entrepreneurship. I was doing Uber, I was doing Shipt, I was doing Lyft, trying to make extra money coming in because I was in so much debt. But I was also trying to, follow my entrepreneur dreams. But then I'm looking over and there's people who they don't seem like they're having those financial mistakes or they're progressing, they're connecting, their YouTube channel is blowing up. Like there was so many things where I'm like, man, that's, that really challenged me. And then another reality is all the kids that I was having. Like one of the reoccurring, conversations or jokes is like, dang, he has all those kids. I remember growing up, I didn't want to tell people how many kids I had because it was always a comment after. Dang, those are a lot of kids. How do you take care of all those kids? You must be on child support. I know it's hard to be successful. Like I heard a lot of that. So for me, I was like, I might as well not even talk about my kids unless you've seen, like, for example, like my daughter Nyla, you would see her. So I'm like, how many kids you got? One? Or you'll see my other kids and like, oh, you got three. I didn't want to tell people that true number because that played with my confidence, honestly. But it also robbed me of, you know, living out the reality of my kids being more involved because then more kids are coming like, dang, I didn't know you had that many kids. I didn't know. So yeah, I'm definitely in a better space now, but yeah, that really, really played with my confidence.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that would, and just the way you express it, it really, and ultimately they're your kids. It's something that you should be proud of, and I'm
Yeah.
not saying that you aren't, but it's just like when you get that outside perspective of people that are
Hmm.
just like, wow, like I could never do that. But guess what? Like
Yeah.
it's all an excuse. Like to them, like it's an excuse. Like,
Yeah.
but to you, it was something to help you strive to be like,
Hmm.
your back's against the wall,
Hmm.
and you got to do to what you got to do as a man to provide.
Yeah, I remember like people talk about my kids so much, I focus so much on me and not them. So for example, people like, dang, you got so many kids. And then as I start to get older, build more confidence and look at people as human, I'm like, okay, what is it that you have that you're struggling with? Right? What is it that you have that can make you uncomfortable in those conversations? So as I started to build more confidence and like you said, embrace like these are my kids, I take care of them and I'm a damn good dad, like things started to shift and I started to see people as people. I stopped creating these like pedestals and these spaces of putting them where it was like, don't look at them crazy, don't challenge them. It's like, no, I have a lot of kids, I take care of them, but what are you going through in your life that you need to overcome and progress through?
Yeah, and for myself, I don't personally have any kids myself, but my mom was a daycare provider growing up, all my life basically. So I got to see the challenges not only like from like the development of kids, like from newborns
Hmm.
all the way up to kids my age, and really truly understanding like from different, just seeing and just other stories that I was
Hmm.
told from different parents and where other people are coming from, and understanding people and why humans are the way they are based on their childhood and where they come from, and that has such a significant role on what makes us who we are,
Hmm.
whether you want to believe it or not, and it could really make or break you. A lot of people will uh, choose a path that may be good for them or it might
Yeah.
not be, but when you find those people that want to overcome those obstacles like it seems like you have, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. So you mentioned childhood and like you mentioned this before off camera, but you like psychology, right?
Mm.
And when I went to Kent State, I took a class called
Now, where is that again? Can...
Kent is in Akron, Ohio, or Kent, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, in
And that's where you're
Ohio.
from?
Yep,
Okay.
from Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And the thing that I started liking was the class child psychology, because it started to talk about, how kids think, how they behave, how they engage, which allowed me to, peel back some layers to think about, like you were saying, how I grew up and the, things that I went through, good, bad, or indifferent. And one thing that I can say is I always grew up in a space where we were surrounded by family and community. I was in a foster home, and my dad had a lot of foster kids around. We would go to
Okay.
different churches. You have your church community. So community is huge for me. And it also put me in a space where I redefined family. I didn't look at family only as like, this is your sibling. But it's like, dang, Marco, we cool. We have shared values and principles. We connect. We've gone through some things. Like, you're a family. That's how I start to look at family. And then as I, got older and had all of my kids, like, I started to talk to them about my values and what that looks like for family, because we have a pretty large family, and when they come together, one of our values is, making sure that we take care of one another. So if it's something in the house, we're not stingy. We're givers. We try to be good stewards of the things that we have received, because I can honestly say we're in a better space from when I grew up. So that's just one thing that I try to pass on to my kids. But I know you're locked and loaded with some more questions. So let's keep, hammering some of these questions before you make me cry, Marco.
Well, the thing is, man, is just like you can never outgive God. And when you give and give and give, and you have such a servant heart that it's not even for them. It's about what makes you feel good.
That's
And
facts.
if that's what creates some form of happiness, that's never steer away from giving to other people, because it's always going to come back to you. And that's what I always truly believe. I wholeheartedly believe
Yeah.
that. I will say that with passion.
Okay.
And it's because it's happened in my life. It comes at the most unexpected times, uh, when you're just not expecting it.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing.
That's real.
And it's with the whole, like with being productive in
Mm-hmm.
life, with having 10 kids and businesses and jobs or whatever, with anyone, you realize, at least if you're smart enough to pay attention to your own behavior,
Right.
that you really find out when you're the most productive throughout your day.
Mm.
uh, at least for me, yeah, I would say I can be back and forth on it. When if I'm more productive with work in the morning or at night, I love to like get up and go to the gym like
Mm-hmm.
right away, like first thing in the morning, because like it's just like it's more just like the euphoric feeling of the adrenaline and
The start of the day.
the
Yeah.
oxygen flow in your blood to
Yeah.
get you going through the day. But sometimes it's just like, man, like I feel like I'm productive with my work in the morning. So, to me, I feel like I'm always back and forth. But I've learned that I always get a better workout at night. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and having some more food in me too, and that's a huge
Yeah.
portion of it too. Like, but even like on a day like today when we were playing basketball, it was good that I didn't have 3 or 4 meals in me, because we were playing for a solid 2 hours, and I'm kind of sore from it, but it feels good. But with you having such a crazy hectic schedule,
Yeah.
when do you feel like you're the most productive in your day?
Ooh, so I'm a morning person. So I feel like I'm very productive. Drop the kids off to school, play some basketball, work, 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 work. I used to be like go, go, go all the time. Uh, Up early, go to sleep super late. I used to like grind that out and be a part of that whole entrepreneur. Like, you don't sleep. No, I get my rest. And that's when I'm typically most productive. I'm even more productive when I remind myself I'm trying to be the last generation to start from scratch. And what I mean by that is, like you said, it could be a lack of a meal. You can be a little tired. But I made a promise to myself to change my generation and the generation to come. So once I literally sit down, so I'll give you a really cool example. Like you said, we had got done playing basketball and everything. And usually, like, I'll take a shower and I'm like, look, I'll take a nap, probably struggle throughout the day. And then I'll look up, it's about 6, 7. And I'm like, all right, you got to go to bed about 10, 11. I sat on that couch. I said, I got stuff to do. I got work to do. It'll be okay. I'm not complaining about it. I made a promise to be the last generation, start from scratch. I asked my daughter, I said, can you go get my laptop? She brought my laptop up, started getting work done. Because for me, sometimes it's like, you have to do that. The same way that we push into our purpose in other ways to get in trouble, to do things that we ain't supposed to be doing. Like, you can do that in a way that you align your gifts. So I love the organization that I run, Young Money Finances. I love supporting my kids. I love supporting our community. I have so many different passions. I'm like, Dondre, you'll be all right until Marco get over here. So that's when I'm also most productive. But then there will be times where I have to grind it out 24/7. My daughter, she is currently trying to find a different or a college that she wants to go to. She's choosing between Western University and Jackson State University. There's been a lot of scholarships, a lot of phone calls, a lot of visits, a lot of traveling. Like, it is what it is. And then I'll have to, travel to my daughter's game in Columbus. She plays softball. So for me, I'm
Okay.
like, you just got to do what you
What
got to do.
position does she play?
Oh, I had to call her.
It's not left bench, right?
No,
Or is it?
it better not be. It better not.
Just kidding.
But no, I think it's
Builds
shortstop.
character sometimes. I mean,
I get on the phone after this.
I played college baseball at GRCC for a year.
Okay.
Coming like I mean, I didn't play all too often, so it was going from baseball to starting and playing every inning, every game to like not. That was a big confidence, a negative confidence thing for me. It's like you go through your whole life being like, all right, I'm like a good athlete, and then it's just really humbling when there's other people that are just not just necessarily genetically better than you at something physically, but it really opened my eye to be like, yeah, things aren't handed to you,
Right.
in life, and you got to work for it, work hard, and that's what I'll tell anyone. Just never give up, have the perseverance to go and strive after something. And to me, it was baseball, and I miss it. It was fun.
Wow.
But
Are you pretty good at hitting the ball?
Sort of, sort of, kind of. I was a pitcher. I was the
Okay.
pitcher. So I mean, and the thing is that I couldn't really throw the ball that hard. But chopped out like low 80s. Nothing too special, but it got me to be able to play JUCO ball here in Grand Rapids. So
Okay.
it was still fun. We won district tournament, went to the national championship out in Enid, Oklahoma, and I think we finished like 8th or 9th in the nation or something like that.
Okay.
So
All right.
it was fun.
Okay.
I still see some of the guys I played ball with that were from Grand Rapids here. So we'll sit and catch up every so often when we run into each other, which is still fun. Is a lot of fun, and I still have all my baseball gear. There's another guy. So I actually work with a guy at so I drive for UPS, and there's a guy that works with us, and we played ball together, and he played, and I still have my wooden bat, and we always talk about how we need to go like just to the park and
play.
hit, and yeah.
So I have a quick question for you because, again, I think I've known you for what, a year and a half, maybe?
Yeah, about a year.
And for me on the outside looking in, you look very motivated and driven. What are some of the things you attribute to your motivation and drive? And what's your, as we want to call it, like, philosophy of life?
I think what motivates me truly, well, being that, so like when I was in school and prior to UPS, I worked in the medical field for about 8 years, I would say. Did CNA work, passed medication, worked with people developmental disabilities, cerebral palsy, autism, Down syndrome, worked with dementia patients, and just as people that like just naturally have grown old and just develop you know age problems. But
Right.
it my motivation, I have different answers for that portion of the question, but I really deep down think is I don't want to be in a nursing home. Like that's what I will tell people. Like the one thing I've learned to keep yourself out of a nursing home is to keep your weight down, stay active, keep moving.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of things, and it's not cool to me personally. So I and so ultimately creating those finances to be able to at least stay in my own home as
Yeah.
I grow older, to have someone that I ultimately would trust to
Yeah.
come take care of me, or even my family. I mean, that's obviously like my parents are older than me, or even my grandma's grandparents are still around. So really just striving to be able to take care of them, and ultimately myself too. But yeah, family's big. So like that's definitely probably the biggest motivator for me.
Yeah, I see my grandfather. Growing up, he always was moving, whether he was working, doing his yard, the neighborhood's yard, like all these things. And now that he's getting older, like he's still moving.
Yeah.
And like you said, like I tell myself all the time, as the older I get, I still want to be able to move, function, and like contribute to like what I think I'm here to do, which is support communities, kids, have fun, run around. Because I have been in some nursing homes, whether it was like when my mom was there or other family members, and I'm like, oof, I I don't want to be in that space if I can help it. So I think you just laid out some good points about keeping your weight down, staying moving, also your mental health.
Yeah.
I love learning more about ways to what Kellogg calls it burn bright instead of burn out. So what they mean by that is, redefining self-care for you. It's not just, yoga and getting your nails done. It's
What's
self-reflection.
Kellogg? What's Kellogg?
Oh, okay. So Kellogg, I was in the CLN, which is a fellowship network through Kellogg, the company like Kellogg cereal.
Oh, okay.
So they have a foundation, and the foundation invested in leadership cohorts, and I was a part of the third cohort for the last year and a half. And we did a lot of self-development, self-awareness, leadership building. It was amazing experience. I actually just graduated last week.
Cool. That's awesome. Correct. Congrats.
Thank you, thank you. We
Did
went
they
through
give you a box of Frosted Flakes?
So every time we had our conferences, they had like Kellogg stuff. It wasn't a lot. It was like, the Pop Tarts and all those other things. But the food was amazing. They gave me a lot of Kellogg branded things though, like charging pads, backpacks, pens, a lot of different things. I have a little thing right over there that I just got for graduating. Gave me a certificate. It was an amazing program. A year and a half, but a year and a half with mirrors all around you saying like you should be looking at yourself just as much as you're looking at your community. So it was a dope experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Keep the man in the mirror.
So any more questions before I start unloading some? Because I've been, processing some questions, Marco.
Uh, yeah. So I guess like there's really no transition that I have for this one, but like, what do you think controls most of your decisions?
Ooh, that's good. I would say my excitement for the unknown outcome. So, for example, I walk into, and I've always had to shift when I was growing up out of fear to walking more into faith and understanding like I have more strengths, I have communities, like I have so many things that's aligned with me that I can put out in different spaces. So I'm not as fearful to make certain decisions anymore. So when I'm making a decision on a program to run for our organization or a new, program to pilot. I'm like, let's figure it out. Before I used to be like, I don't know. Let's not do it. Really, having that lens of fear instead of that lens of faith and excitement for different things. But then again, I tell people I will be the last generation to start from scratch for a reason, meaning I am open to just trying new and different things because over the last few generations, the same approaches have lent itself to the same outcome and result. So I'm like, we got to do something different, and that's okay. And if we fail, let's fail forward. So a lot of that just drives my decision making where I'm high energy. I'm very optimistic. Some people can say I'm overly optimistic, but at the same time, like that feels so much better than a Debbie Downer. That feels so much better than being pessimistic. That feels so much better than cutting someone off of their potential. So if I typically say no to something or a decision, I'm typically robbing someone of their potential, their growth, and an opportunity. So yeah, I don't like to do that.
And to a lot of people, and even myself, it's one of the hardest things is to say no to people.
Yeah, that's
It's
good.
just like it's hard. Like, I mean, it's more of like for me, I guess from my point of view and for who I am is, I love people. I want to be there for them. And does it take away from my happiness? No, it actually makes me happy to be there for them. But like, it can kind of, once you realize it could take away what you're trying to do with your life too. So like
Yeah.
sometimes like you do kind of have to be selfish sometimes
Yeah.
because like if you aren't, then you're not going to be able to take care of people the way you want to.
Facts.
And that's always a hard thing for me because like I want to do that for people and like I hate saying no. I hate saying no to an invite or whatever. Like, oh my god, you're inviting me. Like, oh thank you. But I know on the back end I got to go do like X, Y, and
Facts.
Z or whatever. So, but and what really controls a lot of our decision making is our brains and
Yeah.
the limbic in our limbic brain that controls emotion and behavior. It's actually a part of the brain that can actually be trained to overcome what you're actually feeling, because you can't control you're going to feel what you're going to feel regardless. And, there's nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to feel what you feel, but ultimately, is it the right decision? Is it the right time to feel that? Because yeah, you might be not wanting to get up and go do what you got to do, but, and that's just life. But then like having that power to be like, like how you mentioned earlier, like, nope, I got stuff to do. Can you get my
Get up.
laptop? I gotta, do it now. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can just train your brain to do things when you don't want to do them. And it's hard.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying because essentially what you're saying is, you got to develop boundaries. And that's something that I had to learn to get to a more financially stable place because I used to give so much of my money to help problems, to thinking that it would fix problems, and I kept putting myself in a deeper financial hole. But as I started to develop boundaries and be more confident of what those boundaries look like, I'm able to say yes and mean yes. I'm able to say not right now or no, and that's okay. But out of all of it, I'm always thinking about not necessarily selfish, but self-focused. So like, what is the benefit and impact for me for those decisions, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer of transactional relationships. I used to hear people say like, "Oh yeah, I don't want transactions." I'm just like, no, we should be in a space where you should receive something for giving something, and receiving something could be your own self happiness and wanting to do it. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't mean someone have to. You give me $100, I give you $100, but we should be more conscious of what those relationships look like because over the last couple of years, generations, etc., more and more people are coming in and out of our lives easier. It could be through social media. It can be through the YMCA. Like, people are developing relationships so fast and calling each other friends. I'm like, how are y'all really investing in each other? in all those spaces. So I put that lens on and looked at my little circles like, how are we investing in each other? I can give you $1,000 today. You don't need to give me $1,000, but I need to get something from our relationship. I have to. If I'm not, I'm sorry, I have to go.
Right.
So, yes, sir.
Yeah, and and also like on the back end, there's really nothing wrong with being like just wanting to give and be like, and I have heard this from other people, and where people will just randomly give other people, let's just say $1,000. Like, why'd you do this for me? Because I need $3,000. And and then that's where that comes back to that you're never gonna give God, because then like it's just because then on the back end of that I have heard someone like that was giving, that wanted that money, they were given that amount of money. I'm like, no way, like that's
Yeah.
insane. It's just I
Yeah.
mean, I guess for another example, sometimes when I'm out on my route and I'm just hungry or tired or thirsty and like I don't really have much, I have a little bit of something, but then randomly like something comes like, hey, do you want a snack? Do you want a drink? Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. Like,
Right on
and it's
time.
like, and always just like giving thanks,
Yeah.
to the big man upstairs.
Because my nephew, he gave me $1,000 the other day, and I said, okay, all right, nephew, I appreciate it. So it's things like that. I'm kidding, y'all. He's in the background with. Shout out to my nephew Belli for controlling the cameras and making sure these podcasts go and making sure the sound is good. But yeah, I mean that aligns to our value in our household. Like, we are givers, because we know it's not ours to give. And growing up and being in a space where you didn't have a lot, to being in a space now where I look at my kids and it's not like they're living the worst or best life in comparison to mine, because each generation goes through their own woes. It's just they just have more access to things that we just didn't have access to growing up. So that in itself is a privilege, where it's like, look, we definitely have to teach y'all some different values and ensure that y'all are building community and give. I don't like selfish people. I ain't gonna lie to you, Marco. Ooh, if you selfish,
No.
don't talk to me.
And it's very clear cut and dry on who those types of people are. You can
Yeah.
figure it out really fast. And so that kind of actually leads me into the next question, where when is a good time to cut people out of your life?
Okay.
Because it's like, because like something like, I mean, because like I also like, I guess
Ooh,
a
Lord.
counter question to that, like, is, do you think that every relationship has to be transactional?
Oh, okay. All right, Marco. So the thing I like about these podcasts, again, is like, we don't prep anything. But when you get hit with a question, you got to be like, oh, you got to step back a little bit. So
It's all good. That's what I like.
I can be.
Because I don't even really know the answer to my own questions sometimes. I'm just like,
Yeah, because you
I gotta
answering
think
this,
about
Marco.
them too. It's
Yeah,
not
you
like
want
I
you
really
gonna be
prepared for
answering
this
it.
either.
We'll make sure we hear from you. But I can be honest by saying, like, sometimes that can be a struggle, because I've put people in certain buckets throughout my life, and they can move into different buckets. It's very rare that they just completely go away or quote unquote cut off. They just go into different spaces. So, for example, I may have a friend that's close circle friend. We communicate a lot. We do, X, Y, and Z. We have similar interests, similar values. We, things like that. And then over time, that person kind of slipped further back because other people are moving into my life that I have, similar values and goals with now, and it's filling my space. I'll use an even more concrete example. When I started doing more entrepreneurship and thinking about entrepreneurship, before I thought about entrepreneurship, I had more friends that were like intellectuals, educators, because I was in the college world. When I shifted to entrepreneurship, the conversations with those friends didn't carry as much. The motivation, the meetups, like, we kind of separated in that way. And that was like a natural, authentic thing, which was okay. And it made space for more common friends. When I got older and went to college, my friends back in high school, some of them didn't go to school. Some of them did other things where I just didn't align. So it wasn't that I cut them off. They just moved to a different space. Can they call me today? Heck yeah. Can we pick up
Yeah.
the phone and have conversations? There are many of them that I just DM, and it's like we never even skipped a beat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think my cutoff limit is when you do something to put my kids in an unsafe space, then you're cut off. That's one. And then two, when I feel like you are doing so much pulling like on me, my resources, my life, where I'm not getting anything, then at that point you move so far back on the bucket where it's up to you if you move back. You know, it's up
Yeah.
to you how that relationship or that connection can be reimagined, respark, whatever the case is, because that goes into what I was saying about so many people in and out of your life. Like I just went through the Kellogg program, and there was 80 people in the program, which meant there was an opportunity to build some type of relationship, some type of connection, some type of partnership with 80 people.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine having a space for 80 more people,
Yeah.
which means some people just have to move and kind of go. And if do they feel cut off? Maybe. But at the same time, like my life is aligned a certain way, so I'm trying to pull people in alignment so that I can continue to pursue what my purpose is.
Yeah, because then ultimately, like, there has been things that I've heard. I mean, there's 30 to 31 days in a month.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I've heard what I've heard is that you really only have room for about 30 good strong relationships. That's like one a
Ooh.
day. Not saying you can't have more, and like there's other
Yeah.
people that filter it and out, but then that's when it, and I agree where it comes back to, okay, well, do you want to be in my life? Because like
Facts.
I like we've had that, like at least some sort of connection to where, like, okay, like maybe I need to get to know this person more, and then like, because like I see that you and I have similar goals and values and aspirations too. So I'm hoping that it can build off of that more too, and then you just like you get around the other people that have those same goals and be like, oh, I know this person who can take you there, and I'm like, okay, and I actually really agree with you, because there's a lot of people in my life that I love dearly, and that like if they hit
Yeah.
me up or if I hit them up, that I would hope they would reciprocate. But
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, well, maybe there's a reason why we didn't continue that same like
Mm-hmm.
friendship, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not like you're a bad person or anything, but it's like, I'm trying to go right and you're trying to go left,
Yeah.
or straight. It don't really, it's all about what you want in life, and that's why we're all different, and
Mm-hmm.
it can kind of be hard to accept sometimes when you've like, or maybe if you're afraid of change,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't seem to get out and strive and reach, but
Mm-hmm.
you when you're not growing, you're decaying, and when you're not striving, you can fall in the pit of anxiety, depression, and it's not
Yeah.
a fun place to be. And always having that next goal, because when you feel
Mm-hmm.
like you've reached the top, then it's like, well, what else is there? And that's, ultimately why some people might turn to drugs or alcohol or whatever, because they got to fill that void that
Mm-hmm.
because they've never been taught or learned on how to strive and
Right.
reach,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's and that's what I like to do for people, to help them realize that, no, like, it's okay to feel sad and anxious, but go,
Mm-hmm.
like, there's ways to get out of that, and
Yeah.
ultimately it's up to that individual to make that decision to go out and do something special.
And I think that's huge too, because when you're looking at your friend circle, someone said this at one point, I forget who said it, but I always say this to other people: you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Because you want to position yourself to have people that you support, but also people that support you in your life, because that's a decent balance. So if your new goal, your new passion, for example, is real estate or entrepreneurship, if there aren't many people around your life speaking that same language, you're going to be less inclined to meet that goal and objective because no one's pulling you to that. No one's challenging you or supporting you in getting there. So again, as I'm always trying to redefine and realign my life, I'm looking at my circles like, okay, I'm on this high growth self-awareness kick where I'm trying to learn more about myself. How many people in my life is doing that? If it's not too many people in my life doing that, then it's going to be less likely that I'm going to want to or need to engage with them, because what do we have to talk about? If I literally pick up the phone and like, hey guys, I'm reading this great book that's helping me look into myself, and everybody's like, oh yeah, Dondre, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. But at the same time, I want to be able to have that dialogue with somebody, right? I want to be able to share that experience with somebody. Or I'm like, hey y'all, man, I'm trying to get my money right. I'm trying to learn more about financial education. If there's not too many people that's like, yeah, Dondre, we're trying to do, I'm sorry, I have to move y'all to another bucket because I need that support. I know one thing about me, I wasn't put on this, on this earth to do things always in a silo, right? I'm trying to build community. I'm trying to build change. In order to do that, you have to have some people that's aligned with you. And that's completely okay. For example, a very clear example. Me and my nephew play basketball 4 times a week. I offer that to everybody I know. If they don't choose to do it, I'm not mad at them. I'm not like, oh, you're out of shape. I'm like, look, that's our alignment. He wants to do it, so we go play basketball. I have people who's like, hey, I want to learn more about real estate. We talk about real estate, you know? So again, it's okay to be in that space that I've learned, because I'm trying to go further, faster, and I know I can't do that alone. I can't.
No, you can't. What's do you have any book recommendations that you think have helped you?
Woo! So I always say this book because I'm waiting for somebody to read it, and be like, hey, I read that book. Rich Man, Poor Bank. That book, it was by Mark Quinn. I don't know if you read that before.
Rich Man, Poor Bank. I've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but
Everybody usually says it.
I was like, Rich Man, Poor Bank. Okay.
For me,
I'll
that
read it.
was an eye opener. I've read the Rich Man, or with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I got my Dave Ramsey certificate. Like, all those things were great. But this book gave a real life perspective to how money works. Changed my life. I was like, hold on, what? Essentially, it was saying, if you want your money to really work for you, you have to look at how the banks are making that money work, or your money work. And the guy was having this personal narrative about his, life lessons and what he's learned about his own money, putting it into banks and what it is doing and what it's not doing. And then very practical things that we can do to start to shift that. And once I read that book, first of all, I highlighted so many things that made sense, but also created action steps to like, I need to do this. I need to get comfortable with looking in my bank account and seeing that it's next to nothing in it, because that used to scare me to look at my bank account like I don't have any money.
Yeah.
But I don't have any money because it's in stocks, it's in retirement accounts, it's in real estate, it's in other spaces. It
Right.
shouldn't be in the bank.
Right.
So for me, I ain't gonna lie to you, that was a hard and tough space. But once that green light came on, I was like, oh yeah, very practical book. Um, Little educator books, because I'm still a
Does it have pictures in it too?
no picture.
No pictures. I like pictures.
No pictures, but I will add pictures to my book, and I'll talk about that if we do
Oh,
get
you're
time.
writing a book?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Nice.
I'm writing a book. I don't know how much I'm gonna share about it today, but we'll see.
No.
But the dope thing is, like, as I started reading that book and progressing, I've always encouraged people to just take a look at a couple pages. I even gave some copies to some people, because it was just eye opening for me. Because we all struggle, at least the people that I know struggle with looking at our account and seeing like, if it ain't no money in there, that's overdraft fees. We can't really buy much, but it's like, yeah, you're supposed to have your money working for you in other spaces. So that's just been a really dope book. I earned my bachelor's in political science, and I studied so much in the political world. And I started working on my book, or not working on a book, working on my degree, PhD, a while back in cultural foundations. Then I stopped. But one of the books that was super dope was called The Cultural Matrix. And this book talked about just how different schools and systems are cultures. And when we go into those cultures, we have to understand that things happen to us, like the culture of education. So when we go into Education, it's its own world that operates a certain way. So you can either become enculturated and change and adjust to that culture or fight against it. But we're less aware of that. So what typically happens is, I'll use another quick example. We graduate from high school. You're typically low income, first generation. You go to college. College does stuff to you, and then you then have to go back to your community. So now you have these cultures, knocking up against each other, and we're not essentially aware of that all the time. So how can we start to, first of all, prepare our youth to become more aware of what it means to have some cultural shifts, but become more comfortable and confident in navigating those cultural switches? So for me, I used to go back home and my friends thought I knew all the answers on Jeopardy. Everybody thought I was the smartest person in the world. And I'm like, no, I'm just navigating a different culture that is pressing upon me education, where other people are getting different experiences, and then you start to see a little clash. So that's another book that I really loved reading, but that's more of like on a educator PhD side. Um, Beyond
Have you
that,
ever wanted to go back and get your PhD?
no. No,
That
can I
was
get the
quick.
close up? Can I get the close up?
Heck
No.
no. No way,
And I'll say this:
Jose.
I have nothing against the pursuit of PhD, but I was getting my PhD to do things that I wanted to do and love, and now I'm doing it. So for me personally, I'm like, if someone ever told you or asked you like, hey, if you take this class, you'll be able to do X, Y, and Z. You'd be like, okay, and you take the class, right? But then imagine if you skip the class and still do the things that you wanted to do. That's me. I tell people education no longer gives me permission to learn. Higher education. So I've created my own framework. I contribute to my own research. I write my own books. I do all those things myself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying people shouldn't go to college. They shouldn't pursue their PhD. I'm saying that if you look at my bookshelf, if you look at my computer, you look at my files, like I got my own little PhD going on. I might print out my own certificate one day.
Well, it's kind of almost like you had, like, let's say you're in business in school, you're going for a business major, and all your professors have never owned a business.
Ooh.
It's like, how are you going to learn from someone that has never owned a business, but you're trying to teach me about how business works? Because, I mean, I take it as, being that I was in the medical field, I was in nursing school at GRCC here in Grand Rapids, and from the work experience that I had from it, and then also talking to other nurses in the medical field at the hospitals or whatever, they're like, everything that we learned in school just ultimately doesn't apply. Like that, like yeah, it does, some of it apply to it, yeah, but like it's a lot different when you're actually out there doing it. And that's where,
100%.
and then is, you can't teach that unless if you've gone through it.
It's that experience driven learning. That's why, again, like our curriculum for Young Money Finances, which is the nonprofit that I have, was all built for me because I wanted to leverage experience more than knowledge and education, because those things will come. So instead of saying when you invest, you're going to learn, it's like, no, let's start investing. Let's start demo trading so that you can get the emotional impact, so that you can learn how to navigate these systems. And it makes it more engaging for us because many of us are hands-on. We prefer that hands-on learning instead of all the contextual, psychological, philosophical context building before you can actually do things. So yeah, I definitely agree. But again, like, if I wouldn't have gone to college, I don't think I would have had the type of experiences, the relationships, the networks. I was able to go to Ghana in 2007 because I went to college. I don't think anybody in my community would have been able to pay for that because I didn't have to pay anything for it. So college does have its place, but as I've gotten older, now I just self-learn. Like I don't need a professor to say read this chapter. Uh, I never forget my professor, Dr. Richard Serpy. Shout out to Dr. Richard Serpy in my sociology class. He asked us. He said, "If you want to learn more about financial education, come talk to me." And I was the only student out of 100 total that went and talked to him. And he sat me down and looked me in the face, and he was like, "You no longer need permission to learn about finances." And I'm like, "Why not?" He was like, "Because there's a problem that you want to solve for yourself. Go solve it." And I'm like, "Wow, okay." So yeah, that's what I do now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna bounce off the Ghana. statement that you just said. So there was a lady that I met last year, and she has her own podcast as well. It's called Journey to the Well, and she is actually going to Ghana it, next month or something like that, relatively soon, to go put water wells there with a group of
Wow.
people that she's met. She's been raising funds. She actually sells like t-shirts and sweatshirts and stuff to help raise money for it. So I mean, I can get you the link for that. Maybe you could put it on there just to help, support her and her mission for getting people drinkable water in Africa. So
Journey to the Well. That's
journey
a
to the well.
I love it. Well, that's super dope. So it's experiences like that where now I think the way in which, again, access, people can connect with people that way. I was just this kid coming out of a low income community, didn't really know people, I didn't have one lick of social media. So my ability to see the world differently was only as much as my foster dad was taking me when we were going to different churches, and or I seen in my own neighborhood. I didn't really engage with people from different countries until I went to college. The only time I really seen uh, Caucasian or white people was through the system. So it was either in court or they were social workers, things like that. Never in an intellectual sense, never just chilling with them. So again, shout out to individuals who are still trying to pursue college. My oldest daughter is going off to college. I'm not sitting back like, don't go to college. I'm like, look, it's an experience. That's what we're investing in. We're investing in experiences, and your return on this experience is going to be how much you put into it and how big you can build your network. Because if it wasn't for Dr. Serpy, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about all these things that I've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, and I guess it's like being that I didn't go out of state or go to a big university for college, on the back end, I really wish that I would have gone out of state for college, being that I did go
Mm-hmm.
to get some schooling. But, traveling, getting out of your hometown can
Mm-hmm.
really help you grow. and and so I'm not downing college either, but there's also you don't need college to be successful, that's for sure.
That's
So
facts. Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Any other questions loaded? Okay.
no.
So it's been really great. First and foremost, you taking a flip to the podcast because again, I usually ask the questions, but you've asked some very powerful questions. For our people listening today, um, try to answer some of these questions that you were asking because I think they were very important about limitations and production. What allows you to be more productive, your friend circle when you cut people off. These are things that we probably talk about all the time when we on the phone or behind the scenes, but just continue to think about those things. But one of the things I want to get into, because again, this is the Count the Cost podcast where we also normalize having real financial discussions, is our, let's talk money cards right here. These are our let's talk money cards. And one of the things about these cards is what we try to do is just pull a question at the end and just, ask because we want to normalize financial conversation. So what I'll do, Marco, is I'll have you just pick one and then I'll read it. Just go ahead and pick a random one and then you can hand it to me. All righty.
No way. That's how ironic did I pull that one out. That's
Yeah, I don't know. We're
hilarious.
going to do this today. Okay, all
What's the question?
right. So the question is, how do you feel about paying taxes?
I don't even think I need to answer that. Just based on this laughing. Who wants to pay taxes? Shoot, man, my money's my money. I worked hard for that. I'm trying to give the government anything.
So,
Man, shoot.
so I have an additional question onto that. Like, when did you start learning about taxes and the impact of taxes?
uh, I would say so. Last year, I went to a real estate conference in Orlando, and on top, like, on top of paying like taxes for, just, I mean, I knew that I always had like paid taxes, all my life ever since I got a job. But,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, that there are, and listen, like getting on Instagram and getting followings, like Grant Cardone, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, and saying, like all these things to just like have tax write-offs, and that there's a lot of tax write-offs in entrepreneurship and owning your own business. So when to spend or to make some money, you kind of have to spend some money. But also, like
Yeah,
with owning a
that's true.
business, you are able to, buy things and then write it off so you don't have to pay much in taxes. But
Yeah.
then that ultimately helps you make more money. But yeah, I mean, I can go down a whole loophole with the whole like politics and taxes and stuff. But yeah, it always try to do whatever you guys can to keep your money in your pocket
Yeah.
and try to exponential growth on your income. And that's always the goal, to be financially independent for myself. And it's ultimately not going to get there just from working a job. You gotta, and that's what I believe. I'm not saying that you can't like make a really decent income working for someone else, but I guess in my experience, it's entrepreneurship and business ownership is going to be the way to go. And I'm hoping to do something with real estate, and then
Mm-hmm.
e-commerce, or with whatever else comes about in life. So
Yeah, so I again, these cards were created because we wanted to normalize having like real discussions about finances, because we found that spouses live in the same household and haven't talked about some of these things, right? And it plays out into so many financial decision making or lack thereof, things like that. But for this question specifically, how do you feel? For me personally, I feel conflicted. And I could be honest about that, because in many ways we know, and we take pride in, this is our money. We want to be able to make decisions with our money, good, bad, or indifferent. But in the other sense, you kind of feel this, depending on how much you believe in the purpose of taxes. You feel this obligation to pay taxes because you believe that taxes are supposed to go and support just different population of people, program, like insert thing there, because it's paid to the government and the government uses your taxes to invest in different things and pay for programs, things like that. But that aside, I think that's the conflicting point, because I personally think there could be spaces and ways for us to still accomplish both, where we also maximize how much money goes in our pocket. So again, like growing up, I didn't know too much about taxes. As I've started to learn and become more financially free, of course, I want to pay less taxes as possible, but I also want to contribute to the common good and ensure that we can support different communities that need support. And again, that's a whole different, like Marco was saying, like not to jump too deep into politics and all that other stuff, because I'm sure y'all been drowned out with just all the political things going on, good, bad, or ugly, which this podcast has not been that space for that. Who knows if it will be, but this is not that space right now. It can be very conflicting. No matter how you feel about it, you should learn more about um, the positives, like the pros of not paying taxes, but also the impact that taxes can make, so that you make an informed decision. Now, I think that's the best way to make informed decisions, when you can learn, okay, if I put my money in this, it can potentially do X, Y, and Z. Or if I don't, I can do this with my money, because we all should be able to have more control over our money. But with that being said, we're going to end with one more final question, Marco. You can ask me like any question. Um, Hopefully it's not crazy, but we'll end on that question, and then yeah, we'll tune in for the next episode. So what is there a burning question? I know you asked me a couple, but is there one more burning question you got for me? Don't ask me how many more kids do I expect to have. Don't do that.
um, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
Whoa. All right, Marco. See, Marco came locked and loaded, y'all. He
I kind
doing
of
this
just
'cause
thought of that question on a whim. I know you said like you were gonna have me answer or ask a question like that at the end, and I kind of just thought of it. So
it's because I did him like this in basketball. He come with some hard questions. But no,
rematch.
I I see myself traveling nationally and internationally with a blueprint and a way to help communities build more financial freedom with community impact. So again, my goal is to be the last generation that starts from scratch. And when I say generation, I'm not just talking about my kids, right? I'm talking about an entire generation being more empowered in financial freedom. So I'm traveling to different states, I'm traveling to different countries, implementing some of the strategies that I've been implementing here in the city of Grand Rapids that is starting to change the families' financial futures. I'll have multiple physical locations where we're doing young money finance. I've been working on a school called Flip Academy where kids are going to learn about financial management and then have clear pathways to how they can impact their community with that. People have been telling me to do more public speaking engagements because I've been sharing more about my life. If people have been inspired about how I've been able to live my life and walk, I'll be an author of about 10 published books. Yes, I said 10. I'm finished one, but I got 3 baking. So I'm still going to be churning out books in that way. Also traveling to support my kids. That's something that is a non-negotiable for me. A couple of my kids will be graduated from college, so we'll be supporting some of their dreams and stuff. And then just being one of those guys where people sit down with me and they're in a space where they feel like I'm giving them knowledge, I'm giving them the game, I'm giving them the network. I'm continuously providing spaces like this, and I'm just happy and having fun. Hopefully, still playing basketball because they say I shoot like Curry. And
He did not miss today. I will give him that. I would say out of all the shots he shot today, I would say a solid 80% went in, which is a really great percentage, and I was not happy about it.
so, real quick, shout out to Randall Davis. I understand it now. Only you know what that means, Randall. I understand it now. But
But so like I mean I love traveling myself, and it seems like you have traveled a lot. But is there one specific place that you haven't traveled yet that you would like
Dubai,
to go visit?
Dubai.
Dubai.
Yes, I'm going
I've
to
always wanted to
Dubai
go there too.
for sure. And I'm probably
I want
taking
to
one
go.
other
I want to
person.
go. I want to
Me and
go.
one other person is going. That I got people in the background pointing to themselves, but no, I'm taking one other person. Not if I try to throw something at me. But yeah, Dubai, I never forget. I think I was in high school and we had like a project there. Maybe this was like early college, but it was early on in my life. I'm saying this is from like super old, but anywho. I was researching like different places and I remember researching Dubai and the way like the city looked, it looked unreal. Like it looked futuristic, and I'm like, this place looks super dope. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, what would it look like for me to be in this place? Of course, I've heard so many things about, their laws and stuff there, but I would love to just go there and, be a part of that space and see what things are about. And I've learned, I've been more open to eating different foods. So I would like to try different foods there and just enjoy that space and reflect on life. And I feel like that'll be a place where I'm like, man, I've arrived because I was able to go to Dubai. And I know people are probably like, just buy a plane ticket. No, for me, I think it's more purposeful than that. I think it's a process to getting there, and I'm being very patient of what this process looks like. And then again, I'm looking for one person because I can't take all my kids. We'll never get there. Just never.
I've always wanted to go to Venice, Italy, and go in one of the gondolas and go through the channels and eat pasta.
Okay. All right. Pasta.
I love pasta.
What type
I
of
love
pasta
eating.
do you like?
Oh,
Like, what's your favorite one?
I mean, I like fettuccine alfredo with shrimp or maybe some scallops or shrimp or whatever. I mean, give me some good like cheesy breadsticks too. And like, I mean, in the food there is, it's. I've heard a lot of people say like they go to places like that, like let's just say Italy for instance, and they eat a ton of food, but like they'll actually lose weight because of the ingredients that are in it. So that's really a lot healthier for you.
That's
Not saying that you might
good.
not like gain some weight though too, but like just a food for thought. But I've always wanted to go there. And my
So
name's Marco, and that's Italian, and Italian first names at least. And
So
so,
Marco, I'll make a really good fettuccine alfredo with chicken and shrimp. It's Cajun. So
okay,
you
a little
may not even
spice.
have to go to Italy. You may no, I'm kidding. I'm pretty sure I don't make it like Italian
Or like a
individuals,
wood
but
fire pizza there.
oh,
Oh man, that's
yeah, I
you
don't do
can't go
that,
wrong
but
with
yeah.
that.
Okay,
But
so because he's making us hungry now, we're going to end this podcast. But again, we thank you for tuning in to our Count the Cost podcast. Again, we got a good lineup. We love the fact that we have people that can come in and ask the real conversations. So you've talked to my boy, Mr. Marco here. I'll make sure to put his information in the comment section. You'll see the full video on YouTube. Again, what we're trying to do is continuously grow the channel. We're close to 1,000 people. So if you could follow, subscribe, and share, get us to 1,000, we can start to monetize these things, get a little revenue going, and then see how this can continue to impact the community. But again, I'm Dondrea Brown, founder of Young Money Finances. You have been through the Count the Cost podcast. Make sure you tune in for the next one.
thanks for having me.